Upon the earth, it is true that there have been several civilizations, but I am always wondering and inquiring whether we have a clear record or documentation of the civilizations that transpired upon this earth. How do you understand the civilization unless it is surviving? When a civilization is not surviving, it simply becomes an archaeological finding. If you want to understand the vibrant civilization, that civilization should be still in vogue. When you look at matters in this manner, I would like to say with all confidence and pride that in India you have the longest living civilization. How do we say that? We are saying it because sufficient practices, physical and tangible practices on the one hand, and intellectual, oral and mental practices on the other are surviving here. We have a clear documentation of our civilization. This documentation is manifold, but the most important and fundamental ones are, we call it Prasthanatrayam. It is a collection of 3 important texts. One is called the Vedic Upanishads, the second is called Bhagavad-gita, and the third is called Brahma Sutras. The Upanishads, Vedic Upanishads, were all spoken and heard and learned. They were never written for a number of millennia. People were uttering, others were hearing, and by repeated utterance, hearing, it was transmitted in its perfect form. Later on they were written, that is very recently. But when it comes to Bhagavad-gita, it is a part of the epic called Mahabharatam. This was written 5,155 years ago. 5,155 years ago. And Bhagavad-gita itself is 18 chapters from the original text epic history called Mahabharatam, which consists of 2036 chapters. This Bhagavad-gita, because of the philosophical and spiritual content and greatness of the text, was included in this triple text. Then we have Brahma Sutras, written by Vyasadeva, where it is all a rational presentation in the form of aphorisms, that is, pithy statements consisting of very few words. Brahma Sutras are rational. Bhagavad-gita belongs to the epic, something like our constitution to govern human life. And the Upanishads were considered to be Shruti, only heard and learned. Now, this is the documentation with regard to our civilization. As long as these documented texts are there, you cannot doubt it. And so far as this documentation is concerned, I would like you, all the listeners and viewers, to understand that it is prehistoric. Our history goes back to something like 500-600 BC. Means what? 2600 years ago. These texts were written primarily, which we can identify, namely Bhagavad-gita. It was written 5,155 years ago. So we have only 2,600 years of history. So it is prehistoric. So far as the Vedas and Vedic Upanishads are concerned, we cannot date them at all because it is prehistoric. It can be anything. So right from those days, our civilization has been in vogue. And it is still in vogue. So I would confidently say that in India we have the longest living society. And the worth of a society, the creditworthiness of a society is the literature it is able to produce. In literature we have contemporary literature and eternal literature. Contemporary literature cannot be preserved, they will die after some time, will become extinct. But eternal literature because of the relevance of the content and message in it will be always be present. So we have this eternal literature called Prasthanatrayam, where you find all about our civilization. When they were written, before they were written, how our civilization was, in the same manner it is even today. Now people like me are representing this civilization, the pinnacle, the culmination and the zenith of it.